Hey, let's do some financially speaking here, and welcome back to Daily Flash. I'm Mitch English. Got a question for you. It's a major question. Have you found your tribe yet? We're actually seeing more and more people all across the country actually putting themselves into, well, buckets. Some of those buckets or tribes include an Alice, a Fire, or a Dink. Those names sound weird. Don't worry about it. Joining us now to talk about it is Erin Snodgrass from Business Insider. Erin, thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is interesting. First off, I know what a DINK is, dual income, no kids. I've not heard of those other terms. Explain to me what an Alice or a Fire is.
An Alice is someone who is asset limited, income constrained, but employed. These are
Oh,
people who are stuck in no man's land financially. They make too much to put them beneath the poverty level, but they still aren't able to afford some of those creature comforts. Lots of them don't have houses, cars, so they're in a pretty tough situation. The FIRE movement, on the other hand, that acronym stands for Financially Independent Retire Early. These are
ooh.
people in their 20s and 30s who are saving as much of their income as they possibly can in the hopes that they will be able to quit working and retire early.
You know, I appreciate both of those. I think we've described a lot. As you were saying that, I put all my friends in those categories of what you're talking about. It's interesting. So I'm glad we have that established there. What's the difference and maybe the goals and the financial goals, even the strategies from those different tribes or those different buckets? How do they differ?
Yeah, so each acronym kind of has its own parameters, its own set of defining features of who qualifies to be included in it. So take DINKs for example. You mentioned dual income, no kids. The DINKs that we spoke to for this story offered a variety of perspectives, different goals and strategies that they take. Some dinks take their disposable income and they use it for fun things. They want to spend it on luxury vacations and dinners out and designer handbags, while other dinks may be approaching life with more of a savings mindset. They're
Yeah.
hoping to get to a place financially where they can one day ditch the dink moniker and start a family of their own. Henry's,
Yeah,
yeah.
explain what a Henry is. That was my next question.
Henry's are that acronym stands for high earners, not rich yet. So these are typically people making over $100,000 a year. They're often living in metropolitan cities, and but they don't feel rich. The defining characteristic of a Henry is that they no longer want to be a Henry. These are strivers. These are people who are very keyed into their finances, and they're aiming to move into that next tier.
Okay. You know, and all of these, it's interesting as you break them all down. You can fall into one of these and really kind of, I guess, make it a basis of how you want to live your life. It sounds like, but there's also, I imagine, motivations for each of those groups that have a different approach to wealth management. What are those key differences?
Yeah, so when we consider dinks, for example, we've really seen this movement start to grow as millennials and Gen Z are increasingly foregoing having kids at all amid shifting attitudes toward the economy, the climate crisis, and skyrocketing childcare costs. So they're finding they have more disposable wealth than their friends who might have small kids, and they're trying to figure out whether they want to do something fun, something smart, something strategic with that extra income. Whereas Henry's, on the other hand, they don't see any of their money as disposable wealth. They're very focused on accruing wealth, making sure that they stack their assets. They want to be millionaires. A lot of the Henrys that we spoke to said that is their goal, and they
Yeah.
are taking the steps to make that possible for themselves one day.
Well, let's talk about the landscape, especially the economic landscape that's really has impacted the ability of, say, those fire people to really achieve their early retirement. What ways has that affected them?
Yeah, so historically, we've seen participants in the fire movement saving or investing the majority of their income from a young age. Some people take on extra jobs or delay major milestones like getting married or having kids to prioritize this fire mindset.
Yeah.
But as we've seen more millennials start making up more of this movement, we're finding that they're putting their own spin on the FIRE movement, in that they are keeping the FI part of the acronym, the financial independence, but ditching the RE part of the acronym, retiring early. So part of that is that people who retire early sometimes find that they are feeling aimless or purposeless without a job. But a big part of that is also, it's been a tough few years economically, between the COVID pandemic, inflation, and people just aren't feeling comfortable enough to ditch having a constant stream of income.
You know, there's common misconceptions out there. I generally, when I think of a dink, I think of generally a gay couple, because they don't necessarily have kids. They both have incomes, and that's a misconception, actually, of the lifestyles and the financial behaviors of not only dinks, but maybe Henrys, Fires, even geriatric millennials as well. What's some of the biggest misconceptions that you're seeing?
Yeah, so a lot of the dinks that we spoke to, they like to share aspects of their lifestyle on social media, whether
Okay.
it's making TikTok videos or tweeting about what it's like to be a dink. And they said that they've received a lot of hate comments from people who accuse them of being selfish, accuse them of being materialistic, who say you're not going to have anyone to take care of you when you're old. And a big misconception about dinks is that all of them want to stay dinks forever. Certainly that is one subset of the community, but there's a large portion of dinks who do want to ditch that dink moniker one day, and for whatever reason just don't feel like they're in a place financially where they can do so yet. And then another big misconception we ran into in our reporting was around peak boomers. Now, these are people who are the youngest baby boomers. They're now approaching retirement.
Uh-huh.
They earned that nickname because they're expected to be a peak burden on the U.S. economy, and they've been called lazy and leeches, but they worked hard.
There's going to be misconceptions, and I'm sure you straighten it all out. And if you want more information, you can check out this or more at businessinsider.com.